Have you ever heard the saying, people buy things they don't want with money they don't have in order to impress people they don't like? Today we are talking about how to stop caring about what people think. And you'll be so surprised how liberating it is when you learn how to humbly live your own life despite other people's opinions. Welcome to today's episode. I'm excited about this one because I know for certain this is something that I still struggle with today, and I used to struggle with it so much in the past, and I remember it played a big influence even in the career that I chose. But when it comes to your life, when you evaluate how you live your life, are you living your own life or are you living in fear of other people's opinions? I'm going to show you the bright side, what happens when you actually stop living in fear of other people's opinions, because surprise, surprise, other people are afraid of your opinion of them. So there really is no need for you to live in fear of other people's opinions. So buckle in, I'm excited about today's episode. Before we go any further, I know that most of the people that view these videos are actually not subscribed. Actually, the percentage is as high as 70%, which is okay because other channels have up to 90% unsubscribed people who watch their videos. So today, I'm inviting you to click the subscribe button so that we can make this relationship official. And also, if you are enjoying this video so far, I know we're just getting into it, but still I'm inviting you to press that like button. So first of all, why do we as human beings care so much what other people think of us? Why do we care so much that we live in fear of other people's opinions? Well, this is a survival tactic which we learned over the years. We learned that to be human and to exist means to stay together, to stick together. It means to be united, to be in good standing with one another. And also back then, if you strayed away from the crowd, then you were at higher risk of getting killed, you were at risk of isolation, and you were at risk of extinction and death because you were isolated from other people. Over the years, even with modernization, technology, we still have maintained that. It's called the herd mentality, where, you know, we have a common set of values. For example, you would not go outside naked if you're an adult because you truly care what other people are going to think of you. They're going to think you're crazy, you know, or if you are walking around in broad daylight with your swimming costume, people are going to think you're crazy, right? Unless if you're in a swimming pool, for example. So things like that are meant to protect us. They protect our dignity. But the caring that I'm talking about today is the unhealthy fear of other people's opinions. It's like we've taken this survival technique and then we've internalized it to an extent that it has started to hinder our progress in life. And it's such a huge hindrance to many people because, like I was saying before, people pick their careers, they buy things they don't like, they live a life that they don't love because they're afraid of what other people are thinking. So if you're wondering, is there anything wrong with you because you're so afraid of other people's opinions? Maybe it's parents, siblings, maybe it's friends, whoever's opinion you're scared of, maybe it's a spouse's opinion that you live in fear of, then you're not alone. Many people actually experience this fear as well. What are the pitfalls of an unhealthy fear of other people's opinions? I would say that some of the pitfalls of an unhealthy fear is you fail to really blossom to your full potential because you're looking over your shoulder, worried and sick with fear about what others are going to think about you, and you seek constant validation, so much so that even when you're running your own race and you're walking your own path, if someone you love is not giving you validation and approval, that's enough reason for you to give up. And so many people do that. They give up on things that they're supposed to keep going on because they're way too concerned for approval and validation. And so many times approval and validation is not forthcoming. For example, if you are are from a family that has a background of people in the medical profession and you want to pursue the arts, you are most likely to be met with resistance, opposition, discouragement. And if you are driven by a fear of what other people think of you, then you are likely to give up on your dream of becoming an artist. And as a result, a part of you really dies within. Another pitfall is we stop telling the truth. When you're afraid of what other people have to say, you are ashamed of the truth. We are human beings. Sometimes we make mistakes. We find ourselves on the wrong side of the street. And that's okay. That's okay to just admit that, you know what, I've made a mistake. This is wrong. Or another thing is maybe your opinion is different from other people's opinions. But if you're not able to tell the truth, then you're going to actually lie. And the other pitfall of not being able to tell the truth is you will fail to stand up for those who need you to stand up for them. When you look in history, so look at the civil rights movement, look at how women have come up in the workplace. Traditionally back then, it wasn't the norm, for women to go out, make money, come back home, take care of their families or pursue a career. It wasn't the norm, but those women back then who paved the way for us, they had to go beyond the norm. So you can imagine what would have happened if they were afraid of their own truth, which is seeking a vocational career, and if they had cowered back or not had the courage to go forward and do it. All those people who have fought for the rights that we enjoy today, they were able to stand in their truth because they lacked that fear of what other people thought about them. And even when you study history, you find people who were, ostracized and thrown out by their families because of the truth that they stood up for. And I think that truth is such a powerful and beautiful thing. And you can only stand up for your truth. You can only speak up your own truth if you're not afraid of what people think of you. And the last pitfall is we stop trusting our own judgment and instinct. I remember in December, I went for my sister's wedding back home, and I was driving with my niece back home, and she was sitting in the back seat, she's playing, doing her thing, and I was driving. And I remember she just looked up and she said, "Lolo, follow your gut." She just said that out of nowhere, and I was like, what does she know about following your gut? But I remember just stopping and thinking, wow, this child has a lot to teach me. And with kids, right, they follow their instinct like that. They're not afraid. They trust their judgment. They just trust their judgment. They have no fear. They have zero self-criticism, and they just trust their instinct and their judgment. And as adults, when you are afraid of other people's opinions, you stop trusting your own judgment, especially during times when you are supposed to actually trust your judgment. So how can you actually stop caring and fearing what other people think of you? I'm going to give you some practical tips here. First of all, stop gossiping about other people. Years back, I decided that I was going to stop gossiping, like talking behind other people's backs. And I just made that decision. I didn't have to, of course I had to, some friendships and relationships had to disappear from my life. But even up until now, my friends and family, they know that, Lorraine does not like gossiping. So if you want to gossip, she's really the wrong person to go to. And something that was surprising happened. I didn't know this was going to happen, but I noticed that when I decided to stop gossiping about other people and talking about other people behind their backs, this amazing peace came into my life. I lost the ability to care about what other people were thinking about me. So, if I decide to do whatever I decide to do, I am not standing there thinking, oh my gosh, what is that person thinking? What is that person thinking? Because I know that I myself am not judging that person. So it's almost like do unto others as you want them to do unto you. But this was like a I don't even know how to describe it. It just automatically happened. I realized that the treatment I extend to others is the treatment I extend to myself. So if I'm not gossiping about others, it doesn't matter if other people are gossiping about me, but I have so much peace because I'm not sitting there thinking about what they're saying towards me, and it just created this peace, and it just gave me this freedom to say, you know what, I can live my own life best as I know how, with wise counsel and seeking other people, but without that unhealthy fear, because I know that I respect other people, I respect other people's affairs. I don't need to know what I don't need to know, and I have this love of not knowing. Like, I just love not knowing things. So maybe you can actually try it. Just stop gossiping, even if it's for a week, and you'll be surprised at the results that you will see. Number 2, stop asking others for permission for what you want to do. Give yourself permission. Write yourself that permission slip to do exactly what it is that you want to do. Last year, I spoke to a colleague and they were telling me that, you know what, I have been working in this particular industry for 12 years now. And the reason why I work in this industry is because my whole family thinks it's a respectable industry, and most of my family work in that industry, and I'm afraid of stepping out even though I know I can. And I remember just looking at her and, you know, just really feeling this compassion for her, because I could see that she had not given herself the permission slip to be. And people who want approval from other people and who seek permission from other people, they say statements like this: oh, my mother would never approve, or my dad would never approve, or this person would criticize me. They're so concerned about what their family members and loved ones are going to say. They're so concerned about other people's judgment, simply because they really are judging themselves and they have not given themselves a permission slip. And I want to tell you this: if there is something you want to do with all your heart, permission is not coming. You have to give yourself permission. Number 3 is stop explaining or justifying your choices and your decisions. There was a time when I decided that no was the complete sentence. So if someone said, oh, Lorraine, can we do such and such on such a day? I'd be like, oh, no. Full stop. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't. Whereas before, I'll be like, I'm sorry, I can't because and then that person would talk me out of it, because then they would reason with me and tell me how they can fit in their plan into my plans, and then, you know, I'd end up doing all those things I just didn't want to do. So in what way in your life can you actually stop explaining and justifying yourself? Like, save yourself the energy, save yourself the words. No is a complete sentence. If you can't do something, just don't do something. If you decide that you've made a wise decision about something, then you don't need to go and explain or justify it to anyone else. Number 4 is one of my favorite, and it's develop a spiritual practice. So I know for me, I'm a Christian, so my spiritual practice is reading the Bible, prayer, going to church, going for fellowship, interacting with other people who go to church as well. Whereas for you, I don't know what your spiritual practice is, but if you don't have a spiritual practice, then start having one. You can even meditate. I know with meditation, it's not necessarily religious based. Some of them are not religious based, but you can even just sit still with yourself, because a lot of resistance is going to come up in this work as you stop caring and fearing what other people are thinking about you. A lot of resistance and fear is going to come up. But when you have a spiritual practice, you can then surrender this resistance, you can surrender these thoughts to a higher power than you. You can leave it in the hands of God, and you can just leave it there. Because, you know, some things, so many times we run away from those negative emotions, whereas the best way to deal with those kind of negative emotions that come up when you're releasing the fear of what other people think of you is to go through it. one of the best way to overcome anything is going through, not running away. And the spiritual practice will provide you with an anchor to stand still. Number 5, own your own truth and be okay with this. If you have decided that you want to take a certain career path, or you want to start a YouTube channel, or you want to run a marathon, whatever is your truth at that time, own it and be okay with it. And lastly, be humble. I came to the understanding, this was part of something that I realized, was that part of that fear of other people's opinions comes from pride. You want to look like this amazing, grand person to people. Like, you want people to think a particular way about you. And if they're not thinking a particular way about you, then you feel low. And part of that comes from pride. Why not just be humble, have a humble opinion about yourself? And humility does not mean looking down upon yourself. Humility means having an honest perception of you and just accepting you as you are, accepting your thoughts, accepting your imaginations, accepting your dreams, accepting your desires, accepting your mistakes, accepting your shortcomings, and just being okay. Humbly being okay with this. In my life, I'm inspired by my uncle. He's a very, very humble man. And I have watched him over the years and just realized, oh my gosh, he's not trying to prove a point to anybody. He just lives his own life, and he just leaves you to have your own opinion about him. He just humbly lives his life lovingly and just happily. And for me, that's an inspiration. So why not try it? Why not lay down the burden that pride comes with? Lay down this burden of wanting people to see you a particular way and to think of you a particular way. And you know what? I know for me in the past, my pride was I wanted a job title, and I wanted an office, and I wanted to be making headway in my career, and I wanted to have something to say in every conversation. I wanted people to feel my presence and to know that Lorraine is doing this. So much so that when it was time for me to go through a time where I had no job title, I had no office, I had no idea what I was doing in my career, I remember the biggest fight was the pride, like, oh my gosh, what do I tell people I'm doing? Who am I now if I don't have this job title? But I just want to encourage you to be humble. Humility will just enable you to just lay all that crap down and just be grounded in this moment and accept yourself for who you are without being afraid of other people's opinions of you. So what will happen if you stop caring and fearing what other people think of you? You will become free to be yourself and to be who you are, without any hindrance. You just feel so free to be you, and I think that's a liberating place to be. You will feel at home with yourself without bashing yourself down or judging yourself. Other people will come seeking your advice because they just see the wisdom that is in your life when you're able to live your own life and be in your own path. You will have more peace, and lastly, you will become open to making mistakes, falling down, getting yourself up, and continuing on the journey. And for me, not for me, Carol Dweck calls it the growth mindset. And if you haven't read her book, she has this amazing book called Mindset, I think it's called, and it just shares about how powerful a growth mindset is, like always looking at life through the lens of learning, growing, not being afraid to make mistakes, but actually being eager to make those mistakes so that you can learn from them, reframe how you see those mistakes, grow and go to the next level. I have a question for you. Are you waiting for other people to give you permission to do what it is you want to do? Or are you one of those people who have decided to give yourself a permission slip? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe, like this video, and lastly, as a favor to me and to all the amazing people who need to hear this message, why don't you just share this video with a loved one and just, you know, share with them. They will be grateful to you for actually sharing. My name is Lorraine, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode.